Victoria Hayes sat at her sleek corner office, high above San Francisco's financial district, fingers wrapped around a latte she barely tasted. The skyline glittered beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, but her mind wasn't on the view. At 35, she had every reason to feel accomplished. CEO of Haystack Solutions, a name now echoing across tech conferences and Forbes lists. Her rise was the product of long nights, bold pitches, and a decade of grinding from a tiny Soma office to this glass tower overlooking the bay. Everything about her, tailored suit, flawless posture, minimal makeup, projected control, power. And yet this morning she felt unsettled. A phone buzz drew her eyes. Gala evening 7 p.m. Fairmont Hotel black tie, spouses welcome. An annual tech industry event, one where she usually thrived. Charming investors, navigating whispers, closing side deals between toasts. But this time, her confidence flickered. Because of Ethan, her husband, rugged and grounded. A man far more at ease in hiking boots than patent leather shoes. Former military, now a survival instructor. He thrived in pine forests, not in rooms filled with IPO chatter and blockchain hype. Victoria had dragged him to a business gala once, just once. He'd stood by the window all night, uncomfortable and quiet, nursing sparkling water while venture capitalists talked in acronyms. He wasn't rude, just misplaced. A man built for mountains, not for mingling. I feel like a moose at a ball, he'd muttered with a half smile that barely concealed his discomfort. And she got it. She really did. But tonight's reception mattered. Investors, press, eyes everywhere. Attending solo would invite questions, none she wanted to answer. She stared at her reflection in the window. A woman who had almost everything. But the gap between almost and everything was wide and filled with hard choices. The day after the party, one of Victoria's co-workers cracked a joke in the hallway. Your husband's got the bodyguard vibe? Charismatic, sure, but the way he watches the room, like he's sizing up threats. Everyone laughed. Victoria didn't. It stung more than she'd admit. The punchline wasn't just about Ethan's quiet demeanor. It said he doesn't belong here. And maybe neither does he belong with you. Now, sitting alone at her desk, she couldn't shake that memory. Ethan had tried his best to fit in at those glitzy gatherings, but he always seemed off balance, like he was on foreign ground. She watched him that night, quiet, observant, distant, and felt a mix of guilt and frustration. She glanced at her phone, unlocking it out of habit, hoping for a text. Maybe he'd confirm he was coming tonight. Maybe just a smiley. Something. Nothing. 10:03 a.m. He was long gone, as usual, off to his training camp outside the city, surrounded by trees, tents, and ropes. That world made sense to him. It smelled of pine and freedom, not coffee and deadlines. That morning, like most recently, had been quiet. She sat at the kitchen island checking emails, robe slipping from her shoulder, green tea forgotten. Ethan came up behind her, pressed a kiss to her head, and lightly touched her shoulder. "What time will you be back?" he asked, buttoning his jacket. "We've got the gala tonight, remember?" He chuckled dryly, like he'd just remembered, and probably wished he hadn't. "I'll try to make it," he said, eyes avoiding hers. Then he left, taking with him the faint scent of leather and forest, and leaving her with a growing sense of unease. She knew the odds. Ethan probably wouldn't show, not because he didn't care. He loved her. But galas weren't his world. Talk of IPOs and metaverses made him feel like a fish on land. For a moment, Victoria considered skipping the event. But that wasn't an option. Not with investors to impress and headlines to manage. Showing up alone would raise questions. Dangerous ones. A soft knock pulled her from her spiral. "Vicky, can I come in?" Chloe's voice, familiar, confident. The door opened and in walked her closest friend. They'd met a decade ago chasing the same big dreams. Chloe was elegance incarnate. 36, stylish, sharp, with movie star posture and a walk like she owned the room. Her beige coat, silk blouse, and heels whispered money and media savvy. Even her perfume, vanilla with a citrus twist, seemed intentional. As head of PR for a major media company, Chloe knew how to spin disasters into headlines. But more than that, she knew how to show up when it counted. No judgment, no fuss, just presence. She slipped into the chair opposite Victoria, handed her a coffee, and grinned. "Let me guess. Latte again?" "You know me," Victoria replied, trying to smile. But her fingers trembled. Chloe noticed, of course. She always noticed. "How's the Iron Lady doing today?" she asked, eyes narrowing just a touch. You look like you're carrying a weight. Victoria sighed and set down the cup. Gala, tonight. I really don't want to go solo, but Ethan, he's probably not coming. Chloe gave a knowing look. A Silicon Valley soiree? Ethan would rather be under the stars with a fire in a flask. They both chuckled, but the truth hung in the air. Victoria was dreading tonight, and Ethan once again would be absent from her world. Chloe's usual teasing about Ethan didn't land this time. Victoria just rubbed her temples. I'm stuck, she said quietly. If I show up alone, people will start asking questions. The board knows I'm married. If Ethan's not there, it'll look bad. Chloe set her cup down and leaned in like she was about to reveal state secrets. Okay, hear me out. If Ethan won't come, maybe someone else can pretend to. Victoria blinked. Pretend? What are you talking about? You need a +1, right? Everyone knows you have a husband, but no one really knows what he looks like. What if you bring someone else and introduce him as Ethan? Victoria stared. Are you serious? You want me to fake my husband? Chloe shrugged like it was no big deal. Just for one night, it's all optics. Trust me, stuff like this happens in our world more than you think. That's insane, Victoria said, stunned. Where would I even find someone willing to do that? I have someone, Chloe said without missing a beat. Ryan Cole, tall, charming, model gigs here and there, not working full-time at the moment. Polished, discreet, he can pull it off. Victoria shook her head, overwhelmed. You're asking me to lie to everyone I work with. Think of it this way, Chloe replied gently. You're protecting your image. You're also sparing Ethan from an event he'd hate. No one gets hurt. Silence stretched for a moment. Then Victoria exhaled. Is he reliable? This can't come back to me. I'll handle everything, Chloe said, sensing she'd won. No one will know, not even Ethan. At that, Victoria flinched. She didn't want to lie to him, but she also didn't want to force him into a night of misery. Fine, she said at last. Set up a meeting. I want to see him before anything's official. Done, Chloe said, already heading for the door. You'll thank me later. Just breathe. The door closed behind her. Victoria sat still, heart pounding, conflicted. She whispered to the quiet room. What am I doing? That evening, as San Francisco turned golden beneath a watercolor sky, Victoria stood in front of the mirror in her penthouse. Her reflection was flawless. Dark blue gown flowing over her figure, silver embroidery catching the light like stars. Earrings sparkled, hair perfect. But her thoughts were a storm. Tonight wasn't just about business. It was about stepping into a lie she wasn't sure she could pull off, and there was no turning back. Victoria's heels clicked softly across the marble as she moved with quiet precision. Her dress, midnight blue, floor-length, stitched with silver, hugged her frame like it had been made for this moment. Sapphire earrings shimmered under the soft lighting, and a matching bracelet tapped gently against her wrist each time she adjusted her hair. On the surface, she looked serene, poised, but in her eyes, something flickered. Tension, uncertainty. She caught her reflection. The city twinkled behind her, the scent of her signature perfume, vanilla, iris, a hint of pepper, hung in the air. But her focus was on the phone in her hand. Ethan's message had come earlier. Sorry, Vicky, can't make it. Still stuck in the mountains. Love you. No anger, just the same quiet distance. His absence wasn't personal, but it still felt personal. She glanced at the photo beside her bed. Her and Ethan at Lake Tahoe, laughing like nothing else mattered. Now she was dressing up for a stranger to impersonate him. It's just business, she muttered to the photo. Just for tonight. The intercom buzzed, jarring her. Chloe's voice crackled through cheerfully. We're here. Shall we come up? We're here. That meant Ryan, too. Victoria smoothed her dress, took a breath, and walked to the door. The chime rang again, sharper this time. She opened the door, face composed, though her nerves simmered just beneath the surface. Chloe beamed, dressed like she belonged on a red carpet. You look like a goddess, she gushed, nearly forgetting the man beside her, Ryan. He stood tall, perfectly styled, tuxedo crisp, posture relaxed but assured. His blue eyes studied Victoria with a quiet interest. Confident, not cocky. His smile was warm but unreadable, the kind of man who could blend in anywhere and still be noticed. Victoria's pulse jumped, but she held her composure. Good evening, she said, her voice velvet smooth. Ryan stepped forward with a charming grin. Pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Hayes. Or should I say, Victoria? Victoria's fine, she replied, shaking his hand. Thanks for doing this. Ryan, he offered, finishing for her. But tonight I'm Ethan, your doting husband. Don't worry, I've got it down. Chloe walked in like she owned the place, adjusting Victoria's already perfect hair. Ryan took in the penthouse with casual curiosity. We should go over the backstory, Victoria said, trying to stay in control. If anyone asks. No specifics, Chloe interrupted. He's just back from service, now a survival instructor. Technically true, makes it easier to stick to, Ryan nodded. Minimal talking, maximum charm. My goal is to make you look good. He said her name with a softness that startled her, but she brushed it off. It was part of the act. All right, she said, grabbing her clutch. Let's go. The car is waiting downstairs, Chloe chirped. Minutes later, the three of them exited into the cool evening. The black sedan idled at the curb. The driver opened the door. Ryan gently placed a hand on Victoria's back as he led her in first. She stiffened but didn't react. It had begun. Chloe rode up front while Victoria and Ryan sat in the back, silent as the car glided through San Francisco's evening glow. City lights danced on the bay, and Victoria caught her reflection in the window. Elegant, composed, but tense. This night was a gamble. Ryan finally broke the silence. Relax. You've got this. She turned to him, surprised by the calm in his voice. I hope so, she murmured. He offered a quiet smile. You look incredible, by the way. Your husband's a lucky man. The compliment caught her off guard. It felt sincere and too natural. She reminded herself it was part of the act. They arrived at the hotel, a sleek venue in the financial district. Under golden lights, guests in designer gowns exited town cars, slipping into the upscale world she was used to. Ryan stepped out and offered his hand. She took it, steadying herself, aware of every eye on them. Inside, soft jazz played beneath crystal chandeliers. Waiters floated through the room with trays of champagne. Victoria slid into her public persona, smiling as she moved through the crowd on Ryan's arm. He played his part flawlessly. Light touches, warm nods, silent confidence. They ran into Thomas, one of her company's board members. Victoria, he said, taking her hand. Ethan, great to finally meet you. Ryan answered smoothly. Likewise, Victoria's told me a lot about you. Thomas smiled. I see you brought the star of the evening. Victoria blushed slightly, but felt a sense of relief. The illusion was working. As they mingled, more colleagues greeted her. Ryan kept the conversation light, offering the occasional praise about his wife that earned admiring looks. His timing, posture, even affection, all pitch perfect. She was surprised how convincing it all felt, and how comfortable. Dinner softened the room. After a few sips of wine, Victoria found herself smiling more easily. Ryan leaned in during the meal to whisper playful comments that made her laugh. From across the room, they must have looked like a genuinely happy couple. For a brief moment, even she believed it. Still, she kept scanning the room, half expecting the real Ethan to walk in. The thought left a bitter edge to her smile. As the formalities ended and the crowd began to drift, the mood loosened. Chloe reappeared with a mischievous grin and 2 bright cocktails. There she is, she called out. You deserve a break too. Victoria hesitated. She'd already had enough to drink, but their enthusiasm was hard to resist. The red cocktails sparkled in the light. What is this? She asked. Don't ask, Chloe laughed. Bartender called it a San Francisco sunset. Just try it. Ryan raised his glass. To a successful night. Victoria clinked hers with his and took a sip. Sweet, smooth, harmless at first. Within minutes, warmth flushed through her. Her thoughts grew hazy, light. She leaned back slightly, letting go, for now. As the music shifted into a slow ballad, couples began drifting onto the dance floor. Without missing a beat, Ryan turned to Victoria and offered his hand with a playful bow. May I have this dance, Mrs. Hayes? She hesitated, instinct telling her to avoid more attention, but something inside urged her to lean into the illusion. She placed her glass on a passing tray and took his hand. He guided her toward the center of the room. From the sidelines, Chloe watched with a proud grin. The music was smooth and sultry. Ryan's hand rested at Victoria's waist, their fingers entwined as they moved in sync. His cologne was warm and woodsy, and she couldn't help but meet his eyes, bright, steady, and just a little too close. She caught herself smiling, a real smile. For a fleeting moment, she forgot the pretense. They moved with ease, like a real couple lost in the moment. You're incredible, he murmured against her ear. Didn't expect this to be so enjoyable. You're not so bad yourself, she replied before she could filter the words. He tightened his hold slightly and she didn't pull away. As the song ended, the crowd slowly drifted back to their conversations. Ryan's hand lingered on her back a little too long, sending a shiver up her spine. She was flushed, warm all over. "I think it's time we called it a night," she said, forcing a calm tone. "Your wish is my command," Ryan replied, pulling out his phone. "I'll call the car." She brushed her forehead, feeling the room shift slightly. Chloe passed by and gave her a light tap on the arm. "You crushed it," Chloe beamed. "Total success. You two looked like the perfect couple." "Thanks," Victoria said quietly. "Just tired." "You head out, I'll hang back a little. My driver's yours for the night." Victoria nodded, only half hearing. She wanted air. Ryan returned and wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "Let's get out of here." They made their way through goodbyes and slipped outside into the cool night. A black car rolled up and Ryan opened the door for her. As the city noise faded behind the shut doors, Victoria closed her eyes. Her chest ached slightly and her mind felt heavy. She wanted to say something, maybe thank him properly, but everything blurred. She must have nodded off because next thing she knew, Ryan was gently shaking her hand. "Victoria, we're here. You okay?" She blinked. "Yeah, just tired." "We're close to my place, just a block away. Why don't you come in for some tea or water?" "You look like you need it." She looked outside. This wasn't her building. "Wait, what is this?" "My place," he said gently. "Just for a minute." "You don't look great, and I figured a little break before heading home might help." She wanted to decline, but her mouth was dry and her head felt tight. The words wouldn't come. "Okay. Water sounds good." He helped her out of the car. She stumbled slightly, and he caught her by the elbow. "Easy," he said. "I've got you." Her vision doubled. The lobby lights blurred. Ryan spoke to someone at the front desk, got a keycard, and ushered her toward the elevator. Inside, she barely kept her balance in heels. When they reached the apartment, he turned on a soft light. "Come in. Make yourself comfortable," he said, removing his jacket. "Let me get that water." She leaned against the wall, struggling to steady her breathing. "I don't feel well," she murmured. "You're fine," came his voice from the kitchen. "Just hang on." He returned and offered her a glass. Her hand shook too much to hold it. Water spilled down her chin. "Here," he said, holding it to her lips. She drank a little, then slumped against the wall again. "Thanks," she whispered, too drained to move. "Come on, let's get you on the couch." He wrapped an arm around her shoulders and led her into the living room. She sank into the cushions, her body heavy, her mind still fogged. The water helped, but only just. Everything felt distant, soft, and uncertain. Ryan settled beside her, no longer the polished gentleman from earlier. His eyes were different now, sharper, colder, predatory. Even through the haze, Victoria felt something tighten inside. She tried to stand, but his hand pressed her shoulder firm. "Just relax," he murmured. "You're too tense." "I think I should go," she whispered, barely audible. He didn't let her move. His arm slipped around her waist, pulling her closer. "Why rush?" he said, voice low. "The night's still young." Before she could respond, his mouth crashed against hers. Panic surged. She tried to push him away, but her limbs were heavy, numb. Her heart pounded, but her voice was stuck in her throat. The kiss wasn't tender. It was rough, invasive. In her mind, she saw Ethan's face. Her body didn't respond the way she wanted it to. Ryan lowered her onto the couch, his breath ragged, hands all over her. "Shh. Just let go," he murmured. Tears slipped down her temples. Her body faded into darkness. Her mind shut down. Somewhere nearby, on a quiet street, a phone screen lit up inside a parked car. Chloe sat alone, reading Ryan's message. "Everything is according to plan. I have it. Good night," she smiled to herself, triumphant. Phase 1, complete. "Let's see how strong you are now, Victoria," she whispered, then drove off into the night, chasing a revenge only she understood. The pain came before the light. Victoria stirred slowly, her body aching, mouth dry. The scent of cologne and tobacco lingered on unfamiliar sheets. She wasn't home. Bits of memory flooded back in jarring flashes. His touch, the pressure, her helplessness. Eyes still closed, she curled her fingers against the scratchy fabric of the bed. Not silk, not hers. Her stomach dropped. When she opened her eyes, a strange ceiling loomed above. Weak daylight filtered through a curtain. She forced herself to sit up, her limbs heavy, sore. She was half-dressed, the blanket barely covering her. A dark mark on her wrist caught her attention. Fingers? A bruise? No more doubt. Something awful had happened. She turned her head. Ryan lay on the other side of the bed, asleep, bare-chested. peaceful, like nothing was wrong. Victoria's breath caught. Horror bloomed in her chest. Quietly, she slid the blanket off and sat up. Her dress was in a heap near the bed, the zipper torn. Her shoes lay beside it. She got to her feet shakily, clutching the wall to steady herself. The room swayed, but she had to move. Now, just go. She slipped the dress over her body, not bothering with the broken zipper, grabbed her clutch from a hallway table, and found her phone inside. Missed calls from Ethan. A single message. "How are you? I'm worried. Answer me." She stared at it, heartbreaking, then typed back, "Chloe's. Everything's fine. Be home soon." She eased the door shut behind her and bolted down the stairs. No elevator, no time. Outside, she inhaled the cool morning air like it might cleanse her. The sky was pale with dawn, the bridge in the distance blinking awake with city light. Usually that view gave her peace. Today, it just made her feel lost, broken, and alone. The streets were nearly empty. A few street sweepers passed, rinsing away last night's mess. Victoria glanced around, no one she knew. A couple early risers walked by without noticing her. Finally, a taxi appeared. She waved it down. "Where to?" the driver asked, eyes catching hers in the rear view. She gave her address as steadily as she could. When the car pulled away, she finally let her face fall into her hands. Silent tears poured out. Hot, relentless. How had things spiraled so far? She'd told herself it was harmless, just a little lie. She never imagined it would end here. 10 minutes later, the cab stopped outside her building. She paid and got out without meeting the driver's eyes. Holding herself together, she climbed the stairs. Ethan stood in the doorway, looking relieved the moment he saw her. "Vic, thank God. I was just about to drive over to Chloe's." "You didn't answer." She froze under his gaze, disheveled hair, rumpled dress, clutch clutched like a shield. "I'm sorry," she blurted. "We stayed late. After party. I had too much to drink. Chloe said I shouldn't drive. My phone died. I didn't want to wake you." It all came out in a rush. Half true, mostly not. Ethan studied her face, then gently pulled her into his arms. "I'm just glad you're okay," he murmured, holding her tight. "Next time, just call." "I was worried." His warmth cut deep. She clung to him, sick with guilt. He thought she was apologizing for the worry, not the truth. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Ethan kissed her hair. "Get some rest, yeah?" She nodded, barely holding it together. Once inside the bathroom, she locked the door and collapsed into sobs. For the first time, the sound of running water drowned out her cries. She tore off the dress and stepped under the hot spray, scrubbing herself raw. But no water was hot enough to erase what had happened. Eventually, she sank to the shower floor, knees pulled to her chest, and sat in silence. The shame clung to her skin like smoke. Later that morning, Victoria sat at Chloe's kitchen table, cradling a mug of tea. She'd rushed over the moment Ethan left for work. She couldn't carry this alone. Chloe sat across from her, latte in hand, studying her with quiet concern. "Okay," she said gently. "Tell me what happened." Victoria's voice shook. She stared out the window as sunlight lit the quiet backyard. Kids played, dogs barked. Life outside remained untouched. Inside, she was unraveling. "I woke up in Ryan's bed," she said finally. "I don't remember much after that cocktail. Just flashes. We slept together." Chloe set her cup down, stunned. "Wait, are you sure?" Victoria nodded, tears welling again. "I was without clothes. He was next to me. I know what happened. I don't remember agreeing. I only remember dancing, the car, then nothing. I don't even know how I let it happen." Her voice cracked. Chloe got up, walked around the table, and wrapped an arm around her. Victoria leaned in and cried quietly against her shoulder. After a pause, Chloe spoke softly. "I don't even know what to say. I'm so sorry. I thought Ryan was decent. Tipsy or not, if he took advantage of you when you weren't fully there, that's not okay." Victoria looked up, eyes red. "So you think it wasn't me? You think he—" Chloe gently stroked her hair. "It wasn't your fault. You don't remember much, right? You were barely conscious," Chloe said gently. "A decent man would have taken you home or made sure you were safe. Alone. So yeah, I think he crossed a line. And I feel awful. I was the one who brought him." She bit her lip, pretending to regret it. Victoria shook her head. "It's not on you. I agreed to this whole stupid charade. I drank the cocktail. I stayed too long. I danced. I should have left." She pressed her palms to her temples. "God, I feel sick. I still don't fully understand what I let happen." Stop blaming yourself, Chloe said softly. It's spiraled out of control. What matters now is what you're going to do next. Victoria wiped her face and sat up straighter. The question hit hard. I don't know. Ethan? Chloe asked carefully. Just hearing his name made Victoria flinch. If he finds out, it's over. He'll never forgive me. He'll walk. Tears returned to her eyes. Chloe reached across the table and took her hands. Let's be real. If you tell him, he'll leave. If you don't, he might never know. Think about that. You telling him, it would only destroy him, especially if it wasn't even your choice. Victoria sat in silence, her heart pounding. The idea of keeping quiet, of burying it like a nightmare, sounded tempting. But could she live like that? Look Ethan in the eye, knowing what she'd done. I don't know if I can carry it, she whispered. Chloe hugged her gently. You don't have to do it alone. We won't say a word. You just need time to settle down. Don't make any rash moves. Ethan loves you, and if this stays between us, maybe you can move past it. Maybe, Victoria murmured, too exhausted to argue. Still, the guilt felt unbearable. Ethan had held her so lovingly that morning, trusted her, and she had lied. If only she could undo it all, but she couldn't. So now she had to pretend it never happened. After a pause, Chloe cleared her throat. Vic, you need to take something. You're not sure if he used protection, right? Victoria paled instantly. I'm sorry, but you should take a morning after pill, Chloe continued. Better safe than sorry. The thought hadn't even crossed Victoria's mind. The trauma had drowned out everything else. She wasn't on birth control, and she and Ethan weren't trying for a baby. Oh God, she whispered. You're right. How could I not think of that? Chloe got up, disappeared into the bathroom, and returned with a box. Here, I keep a spare. Take it now. Victoria's hands trembled as she swallowed the pill with a sip of tea. A small wave of relief hit her. At least that risk was now managed. Chloe hesitated. There's one more thing. You might want to see a doctor, just to be sure. You never know. Another chill ran through Victoria. She thought about what else that night could have left behind. Diseases, complications, consequences. Everything she'd built could crumble. Yeah, she said weakly. I'll go. If you want, I'll come with you, or find someone discreet, Chloe offered. Victoria gave her a faint smile. Thank you. That means a lot. She hugged Chloe tightly. The support helped, but not enough. When she left the apartment, she felt a little steadier, but just as hollow. That night, Victoria barely slept. Nightmares haunted her, one after another. Darkness, hands pulling her under. Ethan walking away as she called out to him, Chloe's voice echoing like a laugh in the void. She told no one but Chloe. Around Ethan, she kept it together, but distant. When he asked if she was okay, she blamed work. She flinched from his touch, said she was tired. One night, after waking up drenched in sweat from another dream, Ethan stirred beside her, worried. She told him it was about work. He stroked her shoulder until she drifted off again. And somehow, that gentle gesture hurt the most, because now, every kindness he showed her only reminded her of the lie she had to live with. Ethan drifted back to sleep, leaving Victoria awake, staring into the darkness. Images flashed through her mind, moments when everything was perfect. Last summer at Lake Tahoe, laughing by the campfire as Ethan gently wiped marshmallow cream from her face. Their first meeting, when Chloe introduced her to a quiet, serious veteran at a bar. And by dawn, they were inseparable. Ethan proposing on a hiking trail, kneeling awkwardly in muddy boots. The wedding vows promising a lifetime together. Her eyes filled with tears. How could she have risked all this? Turning quietly toward her sleeping husband, she whispered, I'm so sorry. Ethan slept on, oblivious. Days became increasingly difficult. At work, she found herself zoning out during meetings. Once, her colleagues had to gently call her back into the conversation. She laughed it off, but the incident terrified her. She couldn't keep this up. A week later, Victoria finally forced herself to visit a discreet clinic across town. She signed in with a false name, deeply embarrassed, and quietly told the doctor she'd had unprotected closeness about a week earlier. The doctor sighed gently. It's too bad you didn't come sooner. In these situations, immediate care, within 72 hours, is critical. But let's run some tests. Chances from a single encounter are usually low. Try not to worry until we have results. Victoria trembled slightly as blood was drawn. The uncertainty gnawed at her, especially regarding HIV testing, which required repeat tests over several months. The doctor's reassurances didn't help. Victoria left the clinic feeling weak and shaken, the waiting more painful than anything. The next few days, she buried herself in work, desperate for distraction. When initial test results came back negative, she felt slightly reassured. The biggest fear lingered, but for now, she chose to focus on the positives. At home, Victoria slowly began to reconnect with Ethan, trying to pretend everything was normal. Ethan noticed the change and seemed relieved, believing she was overcoming whatever had troubled her. One night, after carefully ensuring protection, she allowed intimacy again. She silently promised herself this dark chapter was over, looking at Ethan sleeping peacefully beside her. Then Chloe called, disrupting the fragile peace. Victoria stepped aside at the office, concerned. Chloe's voice was tense. "Vic, we need to talk. Now." "Right now? Can't it wait until evening?" "No, I'll meet you downstairs in 20 minutes. The abrupt call ended, leaving Victoria's pulse racing. Panic rose. Did Ryan say something? Had someone found out? She quickly excused herself from the office and waited anxiously in the cafe downstairs, heart pounding, hands trembling under the table. 20 agonizing minutes passed before Chloe appeared at the cafe. She looked pale and disheveled, rushing toward Victoria like a bearer of terrible news. "You're scaring me," Victoria whispered. "What's going on?" Chloe sat down and leaned forward anxiously. "This is about Ryan." Victoria felt a cold wave wash through her. "What about him?" Chloe hesitated, then finally spoke in a low voice. "He's HIV positive." At first, Victoria didn't understand. Her mind refused to process the words. "What?" she breathed. "Ryan has HIV," Chloe repeated gently. "I just found out. Apparently, he disclosed it online a while ago. As soon as I heard, I had to tell you." Victoria stared blankly, her lips numb, reality dissolving around her. She jerked back from Chloe's grip, gasping for air. "No, that's impossible. It can't be." "I wish it wasn't true, Vic. I feel terrible. I brought him into your life," Chloe whispered, feigning remorse. Victoria stumbled to her feet. I need air," she said, feeling the room spin again. Chloe hurried to help her outside, guiding her to a bench. Victoria sat, breathing raggedly, fighting nausea. "Oh God, Chloe, I'm infected. And Ethan, he could be infected too." "Shh, calm down," Chloe soothed. "It's not a death sentence. People live with HIV. The sooner you get tested again, the sooner you can start treatment if needed." Victoria stared hopelessly into space. Chloe continued firmly, "But Vic, you have to tell Ethan. He deserves to know and get checked too." Victoria flinched. "I can't," she murmured, voice breaking. "You have to," Chloe insisted gently. "It's not fair to keep this from him. If you love him, he needs to know." Victoria closed her eyes. Chloe was right. She couldn't risk Ethan's health. Not after everything else. Numbly, she nodded, tears streaming silently down her face. The rest of the day passed in a haze. Victoria barely remembered leaving the cafe, finishing work, or arriving home. Only one thought repeated in her mind. She had to tell Ethan. When Ethan came home, he found her seated stiffly on the couch, phone in hand. He approached, smiling uncertainly. "Hey, you're home early. Everything okay?" he asked, leaning in to kiss her. She instinctively drew back, causing his smile to fade. "Ethan, we need to talk," she said, voice barely audible. He sat beside her, suddenly serious. "Vic, what's going on?" "You're worrying me." Victoria tried to speak, but the words stuck in her throat. Tears blurred her vision. "Vic, please, whatever it is, we'll handle it together," Ethan urged gently. She finally broke down, choking out the painful confession. "Ethan, I cheated on you." For a long moment, Ethan sat frozen, unable to process what Victoria had said. His hand slowly released hers. "What? How?" he finally managed. Victoria buried her face in her hands, forcing herself to continue. "Remember the gala you missed? I brought someone else. It was just supposed to be an act. But afterward, I was drunk, completely out of it, and I woke up in his bed." Her last words were barely audible. Ethan stared in disbelief before speaking hoarsely. "Who was he?" "Ryan, Chloe's friend." "You haven't met him." Ethan stood up abruptly, pacing with rising anger. "You hired a stranger to pretend to be me? And then you slept with him?" "No," she pleaded desperately. "I think he sedated me. I didn't want it. Ethan, please believe me." "It's been a month," he exploded. "You kept this from me every single day?" "Did you think I'd never find out?" She stepped closer. "I was terrified. I thought I could handle it, but everything spiraled. Don't touch me," he snapped, pulling away sharply. There's something else, she whispered. He stared at her, incredulous. Something worse? She took a deep, shuddering breath. Ryan is HIV positive. I just found out. I got tested, but there's a chance I'm infected. Ethan lunged forward, gripping her shoulders roughly. What? HIV? You've been sleeping with me. No, we always use protection. I only found out today, she cried. Ethan released her like she burned him. Get out, she froze, eyes wide. What? You heard me, he said coldly. Leave. I can't look at you right now. Ethan, please, she sobbed, reaching for him. He stepped back, eyes blazing. You destroyed us. How could you? I'm sorry. Please. No apologies, he said bitterly. I trusted you with my life, and you betrayed me. Every moment you spent pretending, you lied right to my face. She reached out again, desperate. He brushed her off sharply and grabbed his keys. Where are you going? She called after him. As far away from you as possible. The door slammed, leaving her in stunned silence. Seconds later, she heard his car speed away. Victoria sank to the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. Everything had fallen apart. Hours passed before grief turned to anger. Not at Ethan, but at herself and the cruel circumstances. Yet something nagged at her, fragments of doubt surfacing clearly for the first time. That night, the cocktail Chloe had handed her, the sudden blackout, was it truly accidental? She recalled Chloe watching from afar, smiling smugly as Victoria danced with Ryan. Could Chloe have known Ryan's condition all along? Could her best friend have set her up intentionally? Fury rose within her, finally cutting through the numbness. Standing shakily, Victoria realized this might not have been a terrible mistake after all. It might have been deliberate. Victoria had to confront Chloe face to find out if her best friend had betrayed her. The thought was unbearable. She stared at her phone, then whispered bitterly into the emptiness. Let's see who's really behind this mess. 20 minutes later, she knocked sharply on Chloe's door. Chloe opened immediately, clearly expecting her. Behind the look of worry, Victoria sensed tension, carefully masked, but unmistakable. Vic, are you okay? Where's Ethan? Victoria didn't move. Ethan left, probably for good. Chloe gasped dramatically, reaching out. Oh God, I didn't expect him to react so harshly. Are you all right? Victoria ignored the hug, pulling away coldly. Did you know about Ryan from the start? Chloe looked startled. What? What are you implying? You know exactly what I'm implying. Did you know he was HIV positive from the beginning? Chloe paled. Of course not. I found out just today, I swear. Did you really? Victoria pressed. Because it seems you planned every detail. Admit it, you knew exactly who he was. How dare you? Chloe snapped, suddenly defensive. You brought this on yourself. Your obsession with appearances caused this mess, not me. Oh, really? Victoria shot back. Then explain that cocktail you practically forced on me. Did you pills me, Chloe? That's ridiculous, Chloe scoffed, but her voice wavered. I just wanted you to relax. You were already drunk. I didn't know you'd react like that. Convenient, wasn't it? Victoria said sharply, her voice rising. Admit it. This was all deliberate. Why did you do it? Because you deserved it, Chloe exploded, losing control. Always perfect Victoria. Wealthy, successful, adored. Everyone always compared me to you. Why aren't you like Vicky? Look at Victoria. I was sick of living in your shadow. Victoria stared, stunned by Chloe's sudden anger. And Ethan? Chloe continued bitterly. I loved him first, but the moment I introduced you to, he only saw you. You took everything from me, Vic. The career, the husband, the life I wanted. I was tired of watching from the sidelines. So you decided to destroy my life? Victoria whispered, horrified. I wanted you to see what it's like to lose everything, Chloe hissed. Now you're alone, your marriage is ruined, your career collapsing. Let's see how you handle being damaged goods. Victoria felt a strange clarity. Chloe wasn't powerful. She was desperate, miserable. Pity replaced shock. Are you done? Victoria asked coldly. Chloe hesitated, suddenly realizing she'd said too much. Vic, wait. I didn't mean to hurt you so badly. I was just trying to... But Victoria turned away, disgusted. She walked toward the door without another word. Vic, wait. Chloe grabbed her arm. Victoria wrenched free. Don't touch me again, she said firmly, voice icy. You're dead to me. You have no proof, Chloe shouted, panic rising. Who will believe you? But Victoria didn't look back. Without glancing back, Victoria let out a quiet, bitter laugh and stepped firmly through the doorway. We'll find out soon enough, she murmured. She slammed the door shut, leaving Chloe stunned and speechless behind it. 3 months later, Victoria stood backstage in a crowded auditorium, tightly gripping her speech notes. The rumble from the packed hall indicated hundreds had gathered. Journalists, advocates, business associates, and curious spectators, all there to hear her speak publicly for the first time. Her appearance had subtly changed. She had lost weight, and her once flowing hair was now cropped neatly into a sleek bob. Her face showed faint traces of hardship, but her expression radiated calm strength. Her life had been completely upended, shattered beyond recognition. After the traumatic revelations and the profound loss she'd suffered, Victoria had doubted she could ever rebuild. Then, one morning at the clinic, waiting to confirm her diagnosis and begin therapy, Victoria heard the joyful laughter of a child echoing down the hall. She glimpsed a young girl, perhaps 8, bald from chemotherapy, being wheeled past. The girl was laughing openly at something the nurse had said, and at that moment Victoria felt a profound awakening. If this little girl could embrace life despite her challenges, couldn't Victoria, an adult woman, find strength to reclaim her own? The diagnosis had come back positive. She had HIV. At first it felt devastating, like an end without recovery. Yet doctors swiftly reassured her that with modern medication, her life expectancy and quality could remain excellent. Treatment would be lifelong, but manageable and effective. Still, the psychological toll was hardest to bear. For weeks afterward, she isolated herself in a rented apartment. After Ethan left, she abandoned their former home, unable to cope with painful reminders, avoiding almost all human contact. Initially, she felt tainted by shame, as though somehow the stigma was hers to carry. But through the compassionate guidance of a psychologist from a victim support center, she began to acknowledge the truth. She'd been targeted, attacked, and deliberately harmed. It wasn't her fault. Accepting this reality didn't restore her marriage or former life, but it granted her a new strength to move forward. Victoria cooperated fully with the authorities. Based on her testimony, a criminal investigation opened against Ryan Cole for deliberately exposing someone to HIV. Ryan himself had disappeared, presumably fleeing before charges became public. But now, pursuing justice was the job of the police. She also filed a lawsuit against Chloe for conspiring to cause severe harm and ruin her reputation. Victoria provided decisive evidence, a recorded confession from their heated conversation. Once the media reported the story, Chloe faced intense public backlash. Her life quickly unraveled. She lost her job, faced serious legal charges, and found herself abandoned by former friends and colleagues. Ironically, in attempting to destroy Victoria, Chloe had inadvertently destroyed herself. Victoria, meanwhile, found strength in transforming her pain into purpose. With gentle encouragement from her therapist and the investigators, she agreed to an interview about her experience. The article drew significant attention from the press and women's advocacy groups. She never publicly named Ryan. Her goal was not revenge, but awareness. Her message was clear: to show that even confident, independent women could be victims of violence and manipulation, to expose hidden dangers, sometimes from the closest friends, to highlight that HIV wasn't a death sentence, but a manageable condition affecting everyday people, to encourage personal responsibility and compassion for oneself and others. Victoria stepped down temporarily as CEO of her company, delegating her duties to trusted deputies. She didn't yet know if she'd return to corporate life. At least for now, it was not her priority. In the eyes of many, Victoria became a symbol of strength. When her candid article appeared in a prominent business magazine, hundreds of letters arrived, some supportive, others sharing similar painful experiences or fears of stigma. Soon, the organizers of a major conference addressing stigma and supporting women entrepreneurs personally invited her to deliver their closing speech. Now, just moments before taking the stage, the coordinator waved to signal it was time. Victoria took a deep breath. 6 months earlier, speaking openly like this would have been unthinkable. But her fear had gradually disappeared. A long road still stretched ahead: therapy, solitude, the absence of a partner, but she no longer hid from reality. The audience greeted her warmly with applause. Victoria confidently stepped into view and approached the microphone. The crowd quieted instantly, all eyes locked onto her. "Good afternoon," she began, her voice clear and steady. "My name is Victoria Hayes. 3 months ago, I thought my life was over. Yet today, I stand here, alive and ready to share how I rediscovered myself." Her words echoed with strength and authenticity. Gone was any trace of shame, replaced by the quiet dignity of a woman who had faced unimaginable hardship and emerged even stronger. "For a long time, I believed nothing could break me," Victoria spoke clearly into the microphone. "I was a CEO, I made tough decisions and negotiated million-dollar deals. My career defined my pride and self-worth. But one day, my world collapsed. People I considered friends took advantage of my trust and vulnerability. Their deception brought me to my lowest point. Her voice briefly trembled, yet she quickly regained composure and continued. In an instant, they destroyed everything. My career, my marriage, even my health, gone overnight. Yes, this happens. You can do everything right, act honorably, yet still fall victim to another person's cruelty and anger. No one is immune. Victoria's gaze moved slowly over the audience, holding their attention. Silence filled the room. A woman in the front covered her mouth, tears shimmering in her eyes. But today, I'm here to tell you there is always a path out of the darkness. I still carry pain. I live with a serious illness. My marriage ended. My best friend betrayed me. I stepped away from the business I built. But despite all this, I am not defeated. In fact, I feel stronger than ever because I've discovered a truth within myself. Vulnerability isn't weakness. It's a source of immense power. The room was absolutely still. Victoria drew a deep breath, preparing herself to share something deeply personal. Unfortunately, successful women often feel pressured to project an image of invincibility. Society tells us that we must be twice as strong to earn respect. I wore that mask proudly for years. I believed asking for help meant failure, weakness. But I was wrong. After everything fell apart, I blamed myself. I'm strong, I thought. How could this happen to me? Eventually, I realized accepting my vulnerability didn't weaken me. It was my first step toward healing and growth. I survived an unimaginable violation and profound betrayal, Victoria said calmly and firmly. I am HIV positive, and I no longer hide that fact. Initially, I believed this diagnosis was my downfall, that I'd face rejection, judgment, whispers. But I was wrong. People showed up, friends, strangers, colleagues, with incredible support. A virus doesn't define me unless I allow it to. When I finally spoke out, hundreds came forward to offer solidarity. Sharing my story enabled me to support others who had endured similar trauma. We don't have to suffer alone, ever. In the back rows, several women raised their hands in quiet applause, clearly moved. Encouraged, Victoria concluded her speech passionately. Anyone can face tragedy or injustice, even the strongest among us. What matters most is how we respond. I chose honesty. I chose to speak openly, seek justice through the courts, confront painful truths, and acknowledge my vulnerability. Today, I encourage each of you. Don't fear honesty. Don't fear your vulnerability. True strength comes from authenticity, with ourselves and each other. Thank you. A long pause hung in the air before enthusiastic applause erupted, filling the room. Victoria exhaled deeply, stepping away from the podium. Relief and liberation filled her. These words, once trapped inside her, were finally free, resonating openly through the auditorium. People in the front rows leaned forward, eager to shake her hand. Smiling through tears of gratitude and relief, Victoria reached out. Backstage, a small group awaited her. Event organizers, eager reporters with microphones, and several women from the audience. Patiently, she answered press questions, repeatedly emphasizing the importance of justice and community support for survivors. Suddenly, a quiet voice drew her attention. "Miss Hayes, may I speak with you?" A young woman, perhaps 20 years old, stood near the wall, nervously clutching a notebook. Victoria politely excused herself from the journalists and approached her. "I just wanted to thank you," the young woman said softly. "Your words really spoke to me. 2 years ago, my boss attacked me. I never told anyone. I was ashamed, scared. But after hearing you today, I realized I need to speak out. I need justice." "Thank you." The girl abruptly broke down, covering her face. Victoria immediately embraced her. "You don't need to thank me," she whispered. "You're not alone. We're all stronger together. You will get through this." The young woman nodded, quietly sobbing. Victoria comforted her gently, glancing around. Nearby, she briefly spotted a tall figure in a baseball cap. Her heart jumped. The silhouette strongly resembled Ethan. She blinked, but the figure quickly blended into the crowd. Victoria took a deep breath. Perhaps it was her imagination, or maybe Ethan had come to hear her speak, though not yet ready to reconnect. Maybe someday, after healing, he might return, but not now. At the exit, the event coordinator approached Victoria quickly, holding out a small sealed envelope. "Victoria, someone left this note for you," he said quietly with a curious smile. Surprised, she accepted the envelope, noticing it had neither a recipient nor a sender marked on it. Carefully opening the flap, she took out a small card containing only a few brief sentences written in bold, familiar handwriting. I'm proud of you. I can forgive, but I won't forget. Please, take good care of yourself. Victoria pressed the card gently against her chest as tears filled her eyes. She instantly knew who the words belonged to. Ethan wasn't ready yet to meet face to face, but clearly he had heard her message today. Perhaps, one day, full forgiveness might come. She closed her eyes, silently grateful for this subtle reassurance from fate. A weight she'd carried so long now lifted from her soul. Victoria said goodbye to the young woman, promising to connect her with advocates who would help protect her. Then, stepping outside, she paused in the fresh air. Sunset cast a warm amber glow on the buildings around her. The city had watched her greatest triumphs and deepest sorrows. Today it had witnessed her return. She inhaled deeply, feeling both melancholy and hope. Melancholy for what had been forever lost. Hope because she had rediscovered the thrill of freedom and purpose. The future was unclear, yet Victoria no longer feared it. She began walking, confidently merging into the evening crowd, ready to meet whatever lay ahead.